Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Aisel Kipruto, and I'm the head of communications at ESSA. And we are really delighted to have you join this conversation. I can see we are 105 people already, and that's great. We are really looking for a great conversation. So this webinar on advancing foundational learning research grants opportunities for researchers in Kenya, in Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, and Zambia is brought to you by ESSA and the Real Center at the University of Cambridge. We are also delighted to have the support of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and also the Global Partnership for Education, Knowledge, and Innovation Exchange. And I want to share a few notes, just housekeeping notes. First of all, this event or webinar is running for 1.5 hours. So we are looking forward to having you for that time. We are also going to record. If you have a concern, please let us know in the chat and we will be sure to address that. We also have French interpretation. If you look at the bottom of this webinar, there is a French interpretation section. So please be sure to select your preferred channel and stay on it throughout the session. We will also love to know where you are joining us from. So be sure to introduce yourself, your country, and also if you have any questions, please share in the chat and we will be sure to address them during the Q&A session. We also want to ensure that more people are seeing these events. And so we will appreciate your support if you are able to publicize on your social media channels. So we really appreciate you taking your time to join us. And I hope you will be able to stay with us throughout the session. I'm happy now to hand over to Dr. Pauline to continue with the session. Thank you.
I'm Pauline Rose. I'm a professor at the University of Cambridge. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong camera, so it's looking a bit odd. 1 second. We have been privileged to collaborate with ESSA for the past, I think it's probably about 6 or 7 years, on the research where we're working together to increase the visibility of African-based researchers across a range of different areas. And hopefully you have all seen and engaged with the African Education Research Database. We can put a link on the chat there, and please do look at it, and you'll find a lot of research, not only in relation to foundational learning, but other areas as well. So we're very excited to be joining with you to discuss what this research grants work is about, provide information on how to apply, answer your questions that you might have. Please do put any questions in the chat as we're going along, and we will do our best to answer them as we go along. We do have a we are updating a frequently asked questions document, so we will also update that, because often a question you have is also a question that other people have. So please do ask them. I'm sure it will be beneficial to others as well. So we're very much looking forward to engaging with you today, and thank you to our collaboration with ESSA colleagues and Pauline ESSA. I'm sorry for stepping in there. It's always very confusing having 2 Paulines, but we're on the same page. So I'm going to now hand over to the presenters who are going to give an outline of the what the grant programme is about and answering hopefully some of your questions.
Thank you, Pauline. Yes, I know it can be confusing for people. And thank you, Aisel, as well, for opening us. I'll now invite my colleagues, Dr. Tieno Diallo, based in Senegal, to tell us about the foundational learning project that is leading to these grants that we'll be advertising and selecting from soon. Thank you. Over to you, Tieno. And please let those who want to listen in French are in the right channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline, ESSA, for giving me the floor. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here today to talk about the grant opportunities that ESSA and Real Center have put together for researchers based in Ghana, Senegal, Kenya, and Zambia. So to go into more details, our presentation will focus on the following main points. First, we will share with you the objectives of the webinar, and then we will provide a brief overview, a brief overview of the phase 1 of the Foundational Learning Project, focusing on successes. And lastly, we will talk about the grant opportunities, especially the country-specific research gaps, the eligibility criteria, and what the funding will cover and not cover. As you know, ESSA and Royal Center have recently advertised a call for application for foundational learning research grants. And for that, we have put together on our website all the information you may need to prepare your application. But we know that you still may have some questions around the application process, the eligibility criteria, and so on. That's why we decided to organize this webinar, especially to provide clear guidance on eligibility, the application process, and also the selection criteria for foundational learning research grants. We also want this webinar to be a platform for discussion, and where we will try to answer any questions or address any concerns you may have about these grant opportunities. And we also want to take this opportunity to encourage quality applications, especially from early career researchers, but also from female researchers. As you can see, one of the objectives of the webinar is also to promote connections and collaboration among foundational learning researchers within and across the 4 focus countries, I mean, Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, and Zambia. So before we dive into the grant opportunities, allow me to give a brief overview of the phase 1 of the project. I think this is important because we are actually building on what we did in phase 1 to give these grant opportunities. And to make sure we are all on the same page, we define foundational learning as the numeracy, literacy, and socio-emotional skills that children should acquire during the early years of primary school. Having said that, what was the purpose of the phase 1, and what did we achieve during this phase? So we engaged in phase 1 to improve the visibility and accessibility of foundational learning research conducted by local researchers in Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, and Tanzania. So we did this for 2 main reasons. First, because very little was known about the state of foundational learning research conducted by Africa-based researchers. And second, we noticed that local researchers produced high-quality education research, but most of this research is overlooked in national and international policy debates. So to reverse this trend, we decided first to conduct a comprehensive mapping exercise of foundational learning research in sub-Saharan Africa to identify researchers, their research, the main thematic areas they focus on, the extent to which their research is funded or not, and so on. During the phase 1, we also organized online and in-person workshops to connect researchers and foster collaboration. As part of the phase 1, we also tried to identify the main research priorities and capacity building needs of foundational learning researchers based in sub-Saharan Africa. And for that, we conducted interviews and also organized workshops with also small group discussions And based on the insights we gained from those engagements, last year we decided to organize a grant writing workshop in Ghana for foundational learning researchers based in Sub-Saharan Africa. As part of the phase 1, we also developed a community of practice, share our findings by writing reports, blogs, participating in conferences, and also organizing events, for example, in Senegal, bringing together different stakeholders, including practitioners, policymakers, and also researchers. For more information about the outputs we produce during the phase 1, you can visit our website. So, based on all the activities we carried out during the phase 1, we noticed 3 remaining issues that definitely need to be addressed. And the first one is around the disconnection between policy and research. Actually, we notice a growing body of foundational learning research being conducted by local researchers, but most of this research is overlooked in the policy-making process, which means there is a disconnection between policymakers and researchers, an issue we definitely think we can address through these grant opportunities. By doing what? By supporting research that is mainly policy-oriented and research also that can inform education policy. Second, we also notice a limited collaboration among foundational learning researchers in Sub-Saharan Africa. Actually, most of the collaboration is taking place outside Sub-Saharan Africa, which is another issue we want to address through these grant opportunities. And by doing what? By fostering collaboration across and within the 4 focus countries, I mean, Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, and Zambia. Last but not least, we noticed during the phase 1 that most foundational learning research is not funded, which is also an issue we definitely need to address, and we are trying to address through these grant opportunities. And for that, this year, we first tried to identify the main research priorities and gaps for our focus countries, and by organizing convenings in Senegal, Ghana, and also Kenya. So at this point, I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Dominic Okulo, to provide an overview of the research priorities and gaps we have identified for our focus countries, and also to dive into the grant opportunities. Thank you, and over.
So thank you so much, sorry for taking a bit of time. So as Dr. Tiana has indicated, in the last few months, we have been able to conduct convenings to get some context-specific research gaps that are there in foundational learning across the countries that we are working in. And we did that for Ghana, Kenya, and Senegal, but for Zambia, we did a desktop review and also linked with organizations to see the reports that are the gaps that have been identified in the reports that are there. So we are going to look at the different gaps for different countries. These are not all gaps. These are just sort of examples of a few areas of research that were identified. The call that was made has got more details on that area as well. So for Ghana, we had the key gaps that were identified were in areas like teacher and school leadership, issues like professional development and how that affects foundational learning, the skill gaps that are there among educational leaders, among other issues. Then we also had curriculum and assessment, issues to do with how the curriculum is maybe supporting foundational learning, language issues, some of these were cutting across many countries, different countries, and therefore you will find I'll be repeating some of them as we go along, just to show that they occurred during the convenings that we had in these countries, in multiple countries. So we had language issues, how mother tongue is affecting language issues to do with transition, and different debates on what should come before. And therefore we are asking that throughout these gaps that we have, then the researchers should tailor their research to these gaps, because the kind of the convenings that we had, we brought together the policymakers, the researchers, and the implementers who identified these gaps. So we also had school readiness, and as well as equity and social inclusion as key research gaps that are in Ghana. For Kenya, we had language issues. Again, so how language policy and practice affects impact of literacy and numeracy outcomes, the implication of the use of mother tongue on foundational learning outcomes, among other issues around policy. I think issues also on transition as well, teacher training and leadership, how the teacher training and school leadership affects foundational learning outcomes, equity and social inclusion, as well as curriculum areas and assessment issues around foundational learning. So we have a small breakdowns of areas that were identified as well in Kenya. So if you look at the call, then you will get more of these details in these areas. We also had in Senegal, pedagogy, teacher development, and inclusive approaches as one of the key areas that came up as gaps. Language of instruction, and how the local languages used as a medium of instructions affect the performance of learners in foundational learning, including even in mathematics activities. Alternative learning models and digital integration was also one of the areas that were identified. Community engagement and student well-being, parental and community involvement in foundational learning activities. Then we also had equity and social inclusion, and a key issue here was inclusion of women in foundational learning research was seen as a gap, and also parental empowerment and engagement. So we have more details of some of these small bits of these larger areas in the calls. For Zambia, we had teacher training to enhance foundational learning as an area, how teacher training can be used to enhance foundational learning, and issues to do with professional development for foundational learning and knowledge gaps and skills. We also had catch-up programs and acquisition of foundational learning skills, how those catch-up programs affect the acquisition of foundational learning, the relationship between early childhood education and provision of and acquisition of foundational learning skills. Again, for Zambia, we also had language issues. We had issues with curriculum and assessment, as well as equity and social inclusion, and then the small bit of details on each of those areas are provided. It's just important to point out that these are large key areas that we identified and then tried to group. And therefore, as you design your research, you want to try to mirror the research into these areas. They may not be very specific, so it is you to make your research a bit specific on some of these areas, as well as other areas that might not have come out even in the bullets, but affect some of these areas that I've talked about in your country. So I'll move on to what the research grant will cover. The grant will be used or can be used to cover the researcher time, the research materials that you use. So the research materials that you use. It can also be used for secondary data analysis or small-scale data collection costs. Research training that is tailored towards you achieving the research work, like filling a skill gap on something that you may need to do that, but you may not be, you don't have the skill. Travel expenses, especially for research purposes, dissemination, and reporting. So the grant will cover these areas. Again, there are more details on this and what is not covered as well in the call that we made. So a total of 16 grants will be provided, 4 per country, and each of the grants is valued at 15 US dollars. So when you are budgeting, you can budget up to 15 US dollars per each grant, that per each application. But the application can come either from one person or a group of people, but we really do encourage collaboration among researchers, especially experienced researchers and early career researchers, and as well as people maybe working in policy, so that the kind of research that we do can be taken, or the kind of research that you are going to do can be taken over by the policymakers. So what is the eligibility criteria? A lot of questions have come around this area. One is that for these calls, for these grants, we are focusing mainly on 4 countries. That is Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, and Zambia. So applicants must come from these countries and must be residing in one of these countries. The other criteria is on language of application and reporting. Applicants from Kenya, Ghana, Zambia must submit their applications in English and research reports in English. That's at the end of their research. The applications must come in English, and at the end of the research, the reports should be done in English. For applicants in Senegal, you may submit your application reports either in English or in French. In terms of the academic and institutional affiliation, the lead applicants must hold a PhD and be employed at a university, research institution, or government department in an eligible country. As I indicated, that collaborative applications that include junior researchers are strongly encouraged. The research focus for this research is that we propose that research must directly address the priority areas identified in the calls. That is the areas that I've spoken about earlier. So what are the application requirements? One is that you need to fill in the application form, the online application form that was sent. You need to write a cover letter, which have a maximum of 500 words. Then you need to come up with a research proposal detailing what you are going to research, your research topic, your methodology, and this should go to up to a maximum of 2,000 words, excluding references and timelines and the appendices that are there. Then you need to come up with a budget proposal. We did provide you with a template, so you need to fill that template in, and then you need to send us your curricula vitae. For the curricula vitae, we need you to have the lead researcher up to 4 pages, and for the other, if you are collaborating with other researchers, then for them they just need their curriculum vitae should be up to 2 pages max. Then we need to have two referees, or the references, those who are providing references, that they know you and you're able to carry out the work. So the evaluation criteria, how will all this be looked at? Application meeting all eligibility criteria and received by the deadline will be evaluated based on the following criteria. It's important to point out that it's a competitive process for all the applicants, and they'll be taken through all the applications will be taken through a similar due diligence to come up with those who will win the grants. We will check this based on the relevance and alignment of the country-specific grant calls, as well as those meeting the eligibility criteria that I've talked about. Clarity and feasibility of the research methodology. We will look at the research methodology. Please note that we have only around 8 months to carry out this research, and therefore, as you design the research, as you design the methodology or what you're going to do, you need to put in mind how feasible is it within the timeline that we have and the resources that are provided. We encourage research methodologies that use or integrate local approaches and consider relevant local knowledge, context, and culture. We'll also look at the ethical considerations of the research. As you know, ethics is very important in any form of research. We'll look at how are you taking care of ethics in your research. Intended application and potential impact. How will you apply the research that you are going to do? What impact is it going to have in terms of in terms of the foundation in learning landscape that you are working in? We also look at the qualification and expertise of the lead applicant. As I've indicated, the lead applicant needs to have a PhD, and also we look at the research team where applicable. If the lead applicant is working with the research team, we'll also look at what are their qualifications, and this is just to help us be able to understand, are they in a position to be able to carry out this research? The budget clarity, justification, and feasibility. We will look at the budget that you present to us through the template that we have provided and see whether it is clear enough, whether it is justifiable, and whether it is feasible. So please do look at your budgets before you send to ensure that it is clear what you are planning to do. You can be able to justify what you are what you are going to do is justifiable, and it is feasible that it can be done within the timeline that we have. We'll also look at, as I've indicated earlier, the clarity and feasibility of the timeline. Let's say I want to dive down a bit on the methodology area of research, just to look at what will we be looking at when we look at the methodology of your research in your research proposal. We look at the purpose of the research that you are proposing to do, and we will want you to describe for us why you think that area of research is important for foundational learning in your country. We look at the research approach that you are going to use. Is it quantitative? Is it qualitative? Is it mixed method? And does it align with the research purpose? Is it going to help you achieve that research purpose that you are setting out to achieve? Then the research design, we look at which methods are you planning to use, what is your overall design of the research that you are going to do. Is it a scoping review? Is it a case study? Or what kind of research are you planning to do? So we look at the overall design as well and how that fits into the purpose of the research that you are doing. We look at the data collection methods. Are you going to use interviews? Are you going to use focus group questionnaires, observations? Are you doing document review? And again, all these are looked at in the light of, are they helping you to achieve the aim of the research within the feasibility time that you're having? Then we look at the sampling procedure that you're going to use, the population, the sample size. Have you considered all of this? Are they justifiable? Are there things that are able to be done within the time? How you describe them well to the understanding? So we'll also look at that. And lastly, we look at your data analysis methods that you have suggested. Are they helpful enough to be able to, do they link with the method that you used to collect, and are they rigorous enough to be able to give you the results that we want? So we will look at all of this in terms of methodology, and please do describe the methodology well, so that we are able to discern what you are talking about in that area. Lastly, the last bit of it is what is it that we are expecting from those who will win? What will happen at the end? One is the one point is that this research, we expect that you conduct the research and submit a final report to ESSA and the Real Center within 8 months of the award, and this is starting January to August. You will be required to attend monthly project meetings to be organized by ESSA and Real Center. The purpose of this monthly project meetings is to just check on progress, see whether there are any bottlenecks that we need to know and counter, and also there are also opportunities for you to network with each other and share lessons from the research work that you are doing, and for us to see how the whole process is ongoing. You will also be required to submit a mid-term progress report, just showing us what you have done by the end of 4 months and how you are progressing. You will also be required to prepare one policy brief for the relevant government department or ministry within 3 months after submitting the final project to ESSA and Real Center. You'll also be required to submit a manuscript for peer-reviewed journal publication within 12 months after submitting the project final report to ESSA and Real Center. And lastly, you will be required to keep records of all the expenses and submit to ESSA and the Real Center. So all the expenses that you will do, you will be required to submit the receipts or the records of how you spent the money. Thank you. So that's the end of the first bit of the presentation. I'll now ask Tiano to move us to the question and answer, and as he prepares to share with us that we have clumped the questions that you did send to us earlier together, so that we can provide you with the answers. I can see Pauline Rose's hand is up, so you can go ahead first. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe just to say thank you so much for those presentations. While you've been talking, there's been a lot of activity in the Q&A with some really important questions as well. I've been answering as we go along, the ones that I can. I think there's some there that it would be great if ESSA colleagues could also look at, because you'll be better placed to answer some of them. But I think there's just, so I'm just sort of noting down a sort of couple of cluster of things that have come up from a few people, and they probably link with, you know, what you might be also going to say, but maybe just given that they've been coming up, there's a set of questions that have been coming up about early career researchers. We're very keen to promote the engagement of early career researchers and to ensure they're included, but the actual application needs to be led. The PI, the principal investigator, needs to have a PhD, but the principal investigator can be working with colleagues who are early career researchers. So if you're an early career researcher and you think you've got an excellent idea, they're likely to be principal investigators who might be keen to work with you. So to sort of find potential collaborations on that. The principal investigator should have experience in relation to foundational learning. Just to say, we're aware that this term foundational learning can be, you know, somewhat of a jargon, and it might not be a term that you've used in your research, but you might have been doing research on early years, on looking at basic literacy and numeracy and socio-emotional learning, which is the sort of definition around that we're using for foundational learning. So that's fine. If you can illustrate how your work relates to foundational learning, that's the main thing. So do, and that might be in relation to teacher education or other areas, as colleagues have been putting in the Q&A. There have been a few questions about the countries that are covered. It is unfortunately focused on 4 countries that have been mentioned, and this is partly because of the funding availability and the preferences of prioritising particular countries in our discussions with the funders of the work. We know that there's a lot of appetite beyond these 4 countries for related research, but unfortunately this call is for those specific countries. And just maybe also to say why it is that we're focused on foundational learning, because obviously there's a lot of other areas that are of importance, and we're very aware of that from the work that we've been doing on the database. But the reason for the foundational learning focus is this is our collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who, as you might know, has that key focus. But also I think it's one that we also agree is important, because recognizing that children need foundational learning in order to progress within their education and beyond their education. So there's important reasons for that, recognizing that, you know, we only have a certain amount of resources, so we can't unfortunately cover everything. So I'll stop there, and there's probably some other clusters that others might want to come in on, and Tiano, do go back also to the general Q&A. Might relate to some of those that are in the chat as well.
Thank you, Pauline. So Tiano and Dominic, you can start sharing their responses to their general questions, but also I'm aware that people on the Francophone line. So just in case anybody has questions from that end, we'll deal with the general ones first, and then we'll come to those. Yeah, thank you. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. So in addition to the questions or comments you may have, we also received a number of questions before the webinar. And the first one is around which areas of research are eligible to apply for the scholarship. Will the funding be tied to specific education focused based on areas of concern? Is there a specific focus for the research funding? So what is important to note here is the area or topic of research should be linked to one of the broad areas listed in the call for each country. But the focus can be in more than one broad area in the list. But the most important thing also is that the project should be feasible within the time and also resources available. The second question is whether the funding will be flexible to allow field offices to customize the research based on the country education context. Actually, the research gaps have been identified per country based on the foundational learning needs that were identified during the workshops we organized in Ghana, Kenya, and Senegal. But for Zambia, the research gaps were identified through the desk-based research and also through official reports that were based on local in-country engagements. We have also a question around how will the grant ensure that research on foundational learning also addresses the needs of children with disabilities and other special needs education learners who are often left out of national data. What is important to note is also one of our focus areas is equity and social inclusion, as Dr. Dominic highlighted, which addresses issues including those of children with disabilities and other special needs education learners. So proposals on these areas that meet all other criteria will be definitely considered for funding. The next question is whether we encourage proposals that adapt existing literacy and numeracy programs for learners with hearing and visual impairment. As I just said, one of our focus areas is equity and social inclusion, which include topics around children with special educational needs. So again, proposals addressing these areas will be considered for funding if they meet all other criteria. Also, any adaptations should be evidence-driven to meet the needs of the group being considered. We also have a question about what kind of evidence and engagement with ministries or teacher training colleges does ESSA expect to maximize policy uptake of disability inclusive research findings. Actually, we encourage researchers to disseminate their research findings to different stakeholders, including policymakers, teachers, parents, and so on. But it's not all about dissemination. Researchers do need to engage with stakeholders from the onset. And that's why we are encouraging research projects that could involve policymakers or practitioners in the team. And we also have a question whether proposals focusing on community or caregiver-led support for foundational learning among special education needs learners be considered within scope. The answer is yes. One of the emerging areas across different countries is the issue of equity and social inclusion, once again. So proposals on community or caregiver-led support for foundational learning among special needs education learners will be definitely considered for funding. Let me pass the floor to Dr. Dominic Okulo to provide answers to the rest of the questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Tiano, for that, and thank you, Pauline, for going ahead of some of the questions that we also have in this list. The other questions that we had is someone wanted to know find out if the funds can be used for systematic review project, or is it a must solely for a field initiated project? So the funds can be used for a systematic review, especially when focused on one or more areas of the priority areas on foundational learning. So the funds can be used for systematic review. That's the answer. Can the grant be used for conducting a study on the reading camps, the impact of reading camps, with limited time on task in schools, in primary schools? Yes, the answer is yes. The area or topic of research should relate to one of the more broad areas, and reading camps, as it was explained in the question, and as we also found in one of the is one of the priority areas in gaps in Zambia. So it can be it can be used as a topic for this and can be covered more broadly. Should this be a nationwide study? That is one of the questions that we got. It's not necessarily has to be a nationwide study. You are free to determine the scope of your study. However, you must ensure that it is feasible enough to conduct within the 8-month period and within the budget that we have. There are also questions on the country, and Pauline has already answered that, we are currently focusing on the 4 countries, that is Ghana, Kenya, and Zambia for the calls. But we are working hard to secure funds to support projects in other countries. And if you do see any funds coming across, then please do let us know. The other question is that the call encourages applications from researchers in Ghana, Kenya, and Senegal. And for this questioner, it goes ahead to say, as an African Curriculum Association, we are a continental secretariat based in Uganda with institutional members in each of the listed countries. Could we apply as a secretariat coordinating a multi-country team that includes our members from Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, and Zambia, so as to strengthen both research rigor and policy impact? This is no. It's no. While we do appreciate the kind of rigor that this may bring, this call is a country-specific calls because we are trying to address country-specific issues. We therefore encourage the idea of collaboration among the different members, but we do ask that you ask your members to apply from their countries so that they can be able to address the country-specific gaps that were identified. The other question was, what is the $15,000 for the 4 countries or for each country? The answer for that is that there are 4 research grants per country, as I indicated, and each is valued at $15,000. Therefore, each researcher or group of researcher can apply for up to $15,000, and each country will receive, therefore, a maximum of $60,000 because there are 4, and each researcher or group of researchers will get up to a maximum of $15,000 each. So I do hope that is clear. The other question we receive is, will field officers or countries be provided with technical support on the research in terms of expertise, guidance, and training? The answer is yes. We'll provide engagement and support to researchers through regular meetings and also by connecting them with other researchers to form a community of practice. Additionally, as we indicated, we also encourage early career researchers to collaborate with more experienced researchers so that they can be mentored during this research period. The last question that we received is, who will formulate the research tools? Is this free for field officers or countries to formulate and use their own tools, or are there standard tools? The other question that was related to that is, will the research be aligned to education models being used by field officers or countries, or there will be universal or common tools? So it was all about around the tools that will be used. So researchers are free to design their own research tools, including the formulation of the are free to design their own research, including the formulation of the research tools. And therefore, there are no common tools that are going to be provided for your research. So thank you so much. Those are the questions that we received prior to this webinar starting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dominic and Tiano, for running through those. We've had lots coming through in the chats. I know members from ESSA are trying to respond to them as we've been going along, and thank you to Real Center as well for their input. We will now open the floor for more spontaneous questions, as well as look at what's in the chat. If you've put a question in the chat, feel free to raise your hand as well, and the technical team in the background will do their best to help you get your question across. So we are open to questions now. Dominic, Tiano, others within the team, Pauline, Rose, and myself can try and help answer them as needed. Thank you. If you will speak in French as well, that's fine. Hopefully we can get the interpretation too. So any immediate hands up?
Yes. I'm asking that are the former, those who had won previously ESSA calls, grants previously, are they eligible now to enter the present call for the proposals?
Dominic, do you want to take that?
Yes. You are eligible to enter the call for grants to put in your application. Ideally, we still will go through the competitive process of getting those who will be getting the grants, but we don't lock you out because you are already a winner in the former grants. But we will take you through a similar competitive process, and if you emerge as the winner, then that's fine. What we do hope, again, is that you are not going to use the same application. It will be aligned to specific calls that with specific areas that we have identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dominic. Next, we have Ajiman Otri. Ajiman Otri, please go ahead.
Hello, good morning. I'm Ajiman from the AAU, and my question is about, you earlier mentioned that these are country-specific researches from Ghana, Senegal, Kenya, and Senegal. I want to ask if I want to collaborate with other researchers in Nigeria to build my team for the research, am I allowed to collaborate even across the same countries which are, I would say, earmarked for this research? Am I allowed to do that collaborative outreach?
Yes. The answer is yes. You are allowed to collaborate with other researchers within the country, and we do encourage collaboration among researchers, especially among seasoned researchers or experienced researchers and early career researchers, because one of the things we are looking at is also to build the capacity of early career researchers to be able to carry out research. So the answer is yes, collaboration across the country that is participating or that in the call is allowed.
Thank you.
I think there was an element of cross-country collaboration within the question. If I got you correctly, you were asking if, as a Ghanaian-based researcher, you can apply with someone based in Nigeria. I think that would be stretching the eligibility criteria. I mean, you'd have to justify why you can't find researchers in Ghana to collaborate with, to respond to Ghana's specific context-relevant and policy-relevant research.
Thank you very much. Next we have Felix Owo. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm Felix from Garissa, Kenya, Garissa University, and I had a question. My question is it possible to look at these all gaps, or you only choose one? That's my question.
So the answer is it's you who is designing the research. So if your research covers a multiple or a number of gaps, that's fine. If it only covers one, that's still fine. So it depends with how you design your research topic or research area. So it's not a must you cover all of them. You can still cover one, or you can cover a multiple. The research question can be across multiple areas. That's still allowed. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Papa Alion.
C'est bon. Alors, voilà. Merci beaucoup. J'avais une toute petite question concernant le comité d'éthique. Mon université d'appartenance, en tout cas l'université Beder-Cham, dispose d'un comité d'éthique. Et cependant, le comité n'est pas aussi fonctionnel. Donc, est-ce qu'on peut, au besoin, recourir à un comité d'éthique d'une université autre que celle de mon université d'appartenance pour la partie évaluation, bien entendu? Merci.
Bon, merci beaucoup, Papa Alioune. Je pense que le plus important est que le projet de recherche que vous allez soumettre soit évalué par un comité d'éthique, que ce soit à Thiès ou bien à Saint-Louis ou ailleurs. L'important est d'avoir en fait une évaluation rigoureuse. Donc, si vous pouvez aussi soumettre ça ailleurs, on est preneur, il n'y a pas de souci. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Next, we have David Kimali. David Kimali.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the quite informative session that you've already delivered to us. I just wanted to seek clarification. While I know I looked at the guidelines and I found that the lead applicant needs to have a background in education, and in particular early childhood development. But I wanted to ask for this particular call, would you really, someone with a PhD in sociology, and then have the team, for the team to have the people that have done education, the PhD candidates doing education, will it be really feasible? Thank you.
Sorry, Pauline, do you want to take that? I didn't get the first part of the question.
I didn't get it either.
Sorry, Pauline, I was actually typing a response, David, as you were speaking. So I think I could see your question in the chat as well. So if you have the lead applicant might have a PhD in sociology, but provided they also show that their work relates to foundational learning in some way, as I mentioned earlier, and as we've said, foundational learning we can sort of think about the different aspects of it in terms of basic literacy, numeracy, socio-emotional learning. That is fine. But if it's a PhD in sociology but no link with education or with foundational learning, then that would be a problem. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay. Ellie, we can pause on the hands up in the audience for a bit so I can read out some of the questions in the chat, and then we take those as well. So there's a question around if someone is a PI and the rest of the team research assistants, then do they have to provide CV? And a quick response is yes. Anybody involved in the application, whether as an assistant or what, so long as they are collaborating, we would want to see their CVs. That's part of the application. There's another question here. If I'm working in an international development organization, can I be considered eligible? Well, again, please have a look at the criteria specified out there. If you're in an international development organization and you are not based in Africa, the workplace is not Africa, then no, you can't apply. But if you're based in Africa and you are collaborating with others in Africa to work on the specific country priorities, then yes. But of course, you have to have a PhD to be the lead researcher or be collaborating with others. I'll read out two more and then yes, Dominic, maybe you can take this next one. I already have a research topic in the area of foundational literacy. Am I eligible to apply? Okay. Yeah, some of these are interesting. Dominic, any immediate thoughts?
You can only apply if you have a research topic. So if you already have one, then it's good for you. You need to go ahead and apply. If I got that question right.
Yeah. So
But
someone
it
else is
has
asking.
related to the research areas that we did talk about. So I think that is the homework that you have to check whether it is related to some of those broad areas in the specific country that we did talk about. Yeah.
Thanks, Dominic. I think your response applies to the next question as well, which is that my interest is in socio-emotional components of foundational learning. How can this plug into the call in Kenya? And I think this is really up to you to tell us how SEL can plug into the call in Kenya. So it is homework for those who want to apply. See how your area of interest or expertise fits within the call, because we cannot predefine what everybody is going to do beyond the information we've provided, the broader areas. So do see how you can fit in with that. Ellie, are there any more hands up from your end?
Yes, a few more hands. Francis Sampa, can you ask a question?
Yes, please. I wanted to find out the criteria for the lead investigator or principal investigator that was outlined. Is that one should be from the government unit, government department, or from a university. But supposing you are an organization who work closely with the government, university, and colleges of education, and you meet the criteria with a PhD in education with foundational learning, is it possible that you could also be considered as a lead for the research? Or is someone only supposed to come from the university or government? But if you have the capacity of someone with a PhD within an organization, can that person be a lead person for the research? Thank you.
I can take that one if you want. So I think the call specifies that you should be from an organization conducting research. So it could be a research department in a university or in a Ministry of Education or in a non-governmental organization. And so long as the NGO is known to be conducting research, you're eligible to apply. The main thing is if people are only focusing on implementation or something that does not involve research, then it becomes more difficult to justify.
ESSA colleagues, just to say there's a number of questions that are more practical in the chat about people having problems with accessing the Excel spreadsheet and the budget in the right format and things. So I think the answer to that is that we'll check afterwards to check that it's accessible. But if you have ongoing problems, there's a email address that you can send a request to help for if you're having problems with the application process.
Thank you. Yeah, Ellie, can we have one more and then I'll go to the questions in the chat.
Yes, Isaac Bobbing.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon to you all. Please, I have two questions. One, I want clarity on the age range for the foundational learning. You talk about the acquisition during the early years of primary school. The primary school, I want to find out whether you are looking at up to primary 3 or you are looking up to somewhere primary 4, 5, or even 6. I'm asking this in relation to one of the thematic areas, language acquisition, the language issues. In Ghana, the language transition policy spans from the KG to class 3. From class 3 to class 4, that's where the transition begins, where they use the L2. So I just want the clarity on the age range so that it guides our proposal. My second one is, can one team submit 2 applications for different areas where maybe in one of the applications, the lead, it's not the same lead for the second application. Different PIs for the 2 proposals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the age range, as we define the early years under foundational learning, we consider grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3, or primary 1, primary 2, and primary 3. That age range, that's what we consider. Then in terms of your second question on whether one team, I'm not sure whether you meant one PI or different PIs, but my answer to that would be yes. All this will go through a rigorous process, and then we'll be able to pick which of the proposals aligns better. So I think at this time we cannot say don't submit a PI with a team cannot submit 2 different topics. So it's upon you, but you checking whether you have the time to make the 2 applications that are strong enough, or whether you want to spend your time making 1 strong application. So that would be my answer for that. Maybe if Pauline, you have anything to add.
No, I think that's spot on. I guess people are hedging their bets. Yeah, please apply, and yeah, we'll see how the selection goes. Thank you. Okay. Let me jump in with one of the questions on the chat. Can a PI come from your organization if he or she meets the criteria, apart from government or university? I think that's been asked already by Francis. And then there's one around what are the expectations regarding open data, data sharing, and authorship? Can I publish the research findings as lead researcher? And that's an anonymous question. I think as an initial response, everything we do at ESSA and at Real Center is for public good. So the expectations will be that the data and evidence can be made publicly available unless there are certain sensitivities around it. But also, as you will see from the call, one of the expectations is that you do publish your research, and we give you enough time after the end of the project to be able to publish. And so it is an expectation that the work will be shared in some kind of journal publication. And we'll do our best to support grantees to be able to meet those targets. Thank you. Again, Dominic, if there's anything you want to add.
I think you said my point. Yeah, we do expect that a publication is done at the end, and we give you 1 year after you have submitted the first report. The first report to publish. So that's that.
Okay. And then there's one here about, can the lead applicant be a PhD student? And the answer straight away would be no. You have to have completed your PhD and have evidence, because we will ask for PhD certificates as lead applicants. But as explained earlier, you can of course join another team where the lead applicant will have completed their PhD. Pauline, any others? If you spot any questions that stand out, please feel free to share them on here while I look through, because there are quite a few.
Yeah, just to say, some people are putting questions in the chat. We can't answer the questions in the chat. The function doesn't allow us to. So if you wouldn't mind pasting them across into the Q&A where we can respond to ones. But I think on the whole, the sort of questions that are coming up, I think there's quite a lot of questions that I'm from another country other than the 4 countries. I'm from Nigeria or Zimbabwe. Unfortunately, as we've said, because of the constraint and the funding available and the scope of what we're able to do, this is constrained to the 4 countries. And I think Pauline and Dominic are right in saying that it's not that it could be, for example, Kenya and Nigeria. It would need to just be on the 4 countries for this occasion. I think a sort of related question that's coming up a little bit, if I'm understanding the implication, is that I'm in Zimbabwe. Could I work with a PI who is in Kenya on a project in Kenya? I think that would be okay, provided the research is on Kenya and the lead research. But correct me if I'm wrong on that, Dominic and Pauline.
Yeah, I think on that, someone asked a similar question about being in Ghana and collaborating with people in Nigeria. And I think the response I gave was that if you can justify why you are not collaborating with others in Ghana and having to cross borders to Nigeria to respond to Ghana-specific priorities, then if you can justify it, but it seems a bit of a stretch. Because also part of this call is to encourage intra-country collaboration as well as inter. So justification is key. Thank you. Any other hands up in the audience?
Yes, we've got Usman Saharan. Usman, if you can hear us.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Oui.
Merci beaucoup. Bon, moi, je m'appelle Traoré Ousmane. Je travaille sur une solution d'agent IA, en fait, en langue locale Wolof, pour aider les patients qui partent à l'hôpital pour acheter des tickets. Du coup, je voulais savoir, est-ce que ce type de solution, en fait, est pris en compte dans la subvention?
Ok, bon, merci beaucoup Ousmane. Je vais essayer de répondre à votre question. Comme vous le savez, ceci est un appel à candidature pour des recherches qui portent sur l'apprentissage fondamental. Et pour chaque pays, y compris le Sénégal, nous avons identifié une liste de thématiques prioritaires sur lesquelles les chercheurs doivent se focaliser. Et ces thématiques incluent les langues nationales, l'intelligence artificielle aussi. Mais il faut que les projets de recherche soient en rapport avec l'apprentissage fondamental. Et si c'est le cas, votre projet est pertinent. Sinon, on ne pourra pas le considérer pour financement. Voilà, merci.
Ok, merci beaucoup.
Yeah, and just one more hand, if there's time.
Yeah.
Okay, Kojo Arhing. Kojo Arhing, please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm based in Ghana. I teach in a university that trains teachers, but I have a PhD in economics. Can I be a PI and have a research team, 2 or more, who have masters or early researchers that have early childhood background. Can I do that? Can I apply? Do I qualify?
Well, the thing is, the lead is supposed to be leading the research, so we would expect that they have experience and expertise in foundational learning. Otherwise, yeah, how can we have the assurance that the research will be done to the standards that we need? I'm sure with the economics background, that would help, but it would probably be better off having someone with foundational learning experience leading the application, and then you can support with the more junior stuff. I mean, these are competitive applications, so obviously we have externals supporting us to review these, and you are likely to have a lower priority compared to other foundational learning leads who are leading on projects. Okay. I'll go back to the chat then. There's a question around, is the grant expecting us to put in an intervention after collecting data to know what exists in the research area? Not very clear, but these grants are meant to lead to action. So we're not just doing research, but we want the research to lead to change on the ground, in the classrooms, in policy making. So by all means, applications for funding need to be leading to something. At least you should have some recommendations or proposed interventions that could actually bring that research to life. So by all means, think about that as you design your project. And that's also why we are able to fund dissemination of results beyond the research, so that that can be better linked to implementation of the project. There's another question here around entrepreneurs. Where will entrepreneurs who create foundational learning products sit in this process? So not necessarily around securing grants, but how they can be more aligned in creating products that are actually needed and create an impact. Anyone want to take that? Entrepreneurs and how they fit into what we're trying to do. Okay, I would suggest that, yes, this grant does not cover that aspect, as the author rightly said. I think it was Amankwa. But we do want the whole ecosystem to be more aligned and more coordinated. So I think it's really important that entrepreneurs stay in touch with us. We share our research findings readily on our websites through our newsletters. We have a community of practice focusing on foundational learning that ESSA and the Real Center are supporting. Feel free to write to us. There's an email address in the calls, so we can connect you to some of these researchers. We want to see more of that happen, the practitioners and implementers connecting with the researchers, so that maybe through the research that is being conducted, you can have a good sense of where the areas of interest are and how you can think about designing products that work for the group. So yeah, please do stay in touch. And again, it might be that you want to collaborate with a group that is already working in this space to show how the research can lead to practical products at the end. Thank you. We just have another 5 minutes or so for questions and answering. Are there any other burning ones in hands raised in the chat? Yeah.
Yes, we have Paulina and then Benjamin Boateng. Paulina.
Okay. Thank you.
Paul, can you hear us? Okay, we can move to
Hello.
Dr. Benjamin. Yes, Dr. Benjamin, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. My name is Dr. Benjamin Mwindi. I am a researcher at a young university in Kenya that is known as ZTech University. And my question to the panelists is whether more than one team from my university can submit a proposal. Thank you.
Dominic, do you want to take it?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure what you mean by more than one team from a university, but if what you mean is that there can be more than one proposal from a university on different areas, then that's fine, ideally. So long as the people are bringing this proposal are different, or even if they are the same, they are bringing different in different topics, that is fine. As I indicated earlier, is that all of this will go through a competitive process, and then we will choose the best out of them. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we have Jane before Dr. Benjamin? Sorry, Jane Kanyari, if you can hear us.
Thank you for the opportunity. My question is for the PI. I saw in the frequently asked questions that it is indicated that they should have relevant experience in foundational learning. So my question is, if the PI has a degree in education, has a PhD in holistic child development, and have not have done quite a lot of research on children, but not necessarily foundational learning, are they eligible?
I think this question has been responded to in various ways. We can't actually know what your exact experience is, but to be able to be successful, you need to show the link between your experience and foundational learning, because the research is targeting foundational learning, and we're looking for leads in foundational learning. So do consider whether you'd be better placed as a joint applicant or collaborator rather than a lead, because priority will be given to leads who have a track record in foundational learning research. Thank you. Is Paul Maynard around? I think he was given the floor, but wasn't speaking.
Yeah, I think that was the previous question.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a different name. So Benjamin Boateng, are you still on? You may ask your question now. Okay, we can move on to Mary JB.
Yes, my question is, when I went through the assignment, I didn't see the budget template. Can you shed light? Where can I get the budget template?
Thank you,
Have I
Mary.
been heard? Yes.
Yes, you have. Dominic, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. If you apply, the application is through the form, the application form, then you'll reach a point where the budget template is. So if you go to the application form, then you will get the budget template attached into that application form.
Okay. So we are fast running out of time. It's wonder how quickly time flies. I will just have time for one more question if it's a quick one. Otherwise, I'll wrap us up because I know everybody is busy. There's Dr. Jaluo. If your question is a quick one.
Yes, if I can be heard, I've really followed the presentations. I want to feel
Yes.
proud that at least we have a group that is interested in foundational learning. I am Dr. Jaluo Murunga from the University of Eldred. I'm quite elated by the call. I've read through the call. So my concern was now that we are a team that may apply, are we applying through the university? Is the university the eventual administrator of the fund? Kindly shed light on it. Because if it is to go through the university processes, then we know the rigor that the university process demands of such calls and such funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Dominic, do you want to take that? And then I wrap up.
Yeah, so thank you for your question, Jaluo. So the calls are not going through the university. We will be funding individual researchers to carry out the research.
And again, that's because we are aware that there can be lots of hurdles to get through if it goes through the university, and we only have a short time for the call. But also importantly, we don't have funds to cover overheads, which of course the universities would rightly expect. So these are individual calls, but we encourage you to make your departments, your universities aware that you are applying, and for this to be something that is recognized internally. So on that note, I think we've tried hard to answer as many questions as possible. We've also noted the questions coming through, and what we'll do is, as we've gone through some of the responses already, we'll try to prepare a frequently asked questions document that we will share with those who have attended, as well as those who asked these questions, so that people can have the information to hand. I'm expecting as well that we will share the recording of this webinar with the attendees in case you want to play back some of these. But yeah, before we close, I really want to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. I think we had over 270 people at one point. So clearly there's an interest in learning more. We still have some time before the call closes. So do feel free to go and have a look. And if you still have questions after going through the frequently asked questions, then do send us an email and we'll do our best to help. As part of this webinar and part of everything we do at ESSA and with the Real Center, we will have a short evaluation form and would be really grateful if you could complete that. My colleague Krista will put the link in the chat, but also we will email the evaluation form afterwards. And yeah, it will just take a short amount of time to complete, but would really help us to learn and understand what's worked well for this webinar or where we need to improve. So on that note, I would like to say a big thank you to all those in the background who have been helping with the technical bits, with registering people, getting the questions through, all those who are involved at the front in terms of welcoming people, taking questions, presenting. I mean, these things don't just happen. It takes a team to get us through to the stage where we can interact with you all. We look forward to receiving your applications. We know some have already completed their applications way before the deadline. Thank you. For those who are still working on them, we hope this webinar has been useful for you and that it clarifies questions that you may have had before this webinar. Lastly, I would like to really say a big thank you to the funders who sponsored these grants, the Gates Foundation, as well as GPE KICS. As we can tell, there's a lot of interest in these grants from within the 4 countries, but also the other countries where we don't yet have grants. But I can assure you we're working hard to try and tap in more funding to be able to do more across more education themes beyond foundational learning, but also across more countries. And wouldn't it be great if we could then have grants that connect researchers across different countries, and then there's no need to pick and choose where you place your bets. We're not there yet, but we're working hard to get us there. So please, thank you for your patience. Thanks for the support. If you are aware of people with deep pockets, get in touch and we will contact them. Or if your government, you're working in government, please, I hope if you're on this call, you've seen the need and the interest in these grants. So yeah, let's use this opportunity to encourage our African governments to also put more funding into research for policy and for practice. On that note, I will close us with a minute or more to spare, and thank you all very much for your participation. Have a good rest of the day, and we look forward to reviewing and feedback on your applications. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.